Thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to be here. Super excited, as some people say. And I'm going to talk about Copilot Studio today. I will also demo some features of Copilot Studio. And by the show of hands, who of you already used Copilot Studio? A couple? Okay. And who of you already used Power Virtual Agents, which was before Copilot Studio? A couple more? Okay. Yeah, so I will be talking about building and extending Copilots to accelerate productivity. And what I'm going to show you is what Copilot Studio is and how you can create your own custom Copilot or how to extend one. I'll focus mostly on creating your own Copilot, but I'll also talk about the extensibility part. But first, let's start with what is Microsoft Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is part of the Power Platform, and we have a couple of products in there. We have Power Apps for app development. We have Power Automate for workflows. We have Power BI for the analytics. We have Copilot Studio for the Copilots, and we have Power Pages for website development. And below that, we have a whole bunch of different services inside of the Power Platform, like data connectors, which is kind of the bread and butter inside of the Power Platform. And we already have more than 1,300 of those. And you can connect to all kinds of data sources outside of the Power Platform as well as inside of Power Platform. We also have data connectors for non-Microsoft tools. So it's not just Microsoft. And if you want to, you can also extend and create your own data connector if you want to. There are also some other services, but I'm not going to zoom into that today. But let's first look at Copilots and conversational AI. So Copilot Studio is the tool to extend all the first-party Copilots. So if you have Copilot for Sales, Copilot for Microsoft 365, you will be able to extend that inside of Copilot Studio. And usually that goes with plugins. So you can create like a little kind of extensibility possibility. And you can then add that to your Copilot, your first-party Copilot. But you can also create your own Copilot. So if you want to be able to show like everything and have control over the whole Copilot, then you want to create your custom Copilot. So if we look at Copilot Studio, you can build your own Copilot. You can extend the first-party Copilots. You can use it when you have a license for Microsoft Copilot. So when you have, for instance, Copilot for Microsoft 365, you automatically get the licenses for Copilot Studio. So you can then extend those without having to pay extra money for that. And of course, it's a connected platform. So you can use it together with all kinds of other tooling, like for instance, the Azure side of things. So if you want to combine it with Azure AI Studio, you can do that. So there's lots of possibilities there. So when you are building your own custom Copilot, you can follow our life cycle. And we have a really nice life cycle where you start with creating a Copilot, which is at the top. And then when you want to add knowledge to it, you can add your own websites or your SharePoint sites if you want to. And you want to chat over that knowledge, you can do that with Copilot Studio. Then you also want to, for instance, have a specific topic. So if you have an HR topic that you want to kind of have with more complexity, you can create that and you can kind of design the whole conversation that you will have around that topic. Next, you can also use actions and plugins. And what you can do with that is you can add all those connectors that I talked about, the data connectors, the 1,300 plus that we have. You can actually add those to your Copilot. So if you want to connect with Dataverse, for instance, you can add that. If you want to connect to Salesforce, you can do that. If you want to connect to Facebook or other tooling, you can do that as well. And as well, if you have your own APIs and you want to connect to those APIs, you can do that as well with a custom connector. So that's also possible. Next, when you're done creating your Copilot, you of course also want to enable it on certain channels. You want to make it available to your audience. So you want to maybe put it on Microsoft Teams if it's an internal audience. But you can also put it on a website, or you can also publish it to Facebook. There's a whole bunch of channels that are available out of the box, and you can use those. Next, we also have monitor and improve. So we have a really nice monitoring look and feel within Copilot Studio, where you can see if everybody got the answers that they wanted. So you also have like those customer satisfaction scores and that kind of stuff. So you can really see how they rate your Copilot. And that's really, really useful, because then you know which topics you might want to improve, or if you want to add something that people are looking for but can't find in your Copilot. So there's a lot of possibilities there. And of course, we can also extend with Azure. So if you want to use something that's maybe relatively new, for instance, for now, Copilot Studio has GPT-4. And there's already a new model, and if you want to use that, you kind of want to extend with Azure and make that possible. Eventually, Copilot Studio will go to the new models as well, but sometimes there's like a little bit of time between when it's available in Azure and when it's available in Copilot Studio. So it could be a reason to start working with Azure first. So let's talk about creating a Copilot that can chat over your data. We have a feature within Copilot Studio called Generative Answers, and that will enable you to use external websites. So if you have your own website, your company website, and you want to add that to your Copilot, you can do that easily. You can also add SharePoint sites if you want to, and chat over the documents that are in that SharePoint site. And it will generate a whole bunch of details on those documents and websites. I'm going to show that in a little bit in a demo, because I can talk about it for ages, but I also want to show it to you. You can also use, for instance, an API. If you want to call that API that's not available, it's not a website, it's not a SharePoint site, you can still use an API to also get the data from there if you want to. So let's go into a demo, because I'm always talking about it, but I also want to show it to you. So here we go. This is the homepage of Copilot Studio, and we recently implemented a new design. So this might look a little bit new to everybody, but what changed is at the top we now have an option to describe what you want. So we have a Copilot experience within Copilot Studio. Vivian was already saying that she said a lot of Copilot. Well, I'm going to try to do it even more. But we have a Copilot in Copilot Studio that you can use to generate a Copilot. Oh, that's a lot of Copilot. But you can just pick one of the suggestions at the top if you want to, or you can enter a text in there. And if I want to do that, I have a short key. So I already copied and pasted the text. And what I say is, I want this Copilot to be a Copilot that can answer questions a user might have based on information on our website. Our website is a website that will show our products, but you can also learn more about our clients, partners, get resources, and more. So when I hit the send button, it will go into a conversational experience where it will ask me a bunch of questions about what I want with this Copilot. So because I already entered the data at the beginning in the box, it will already add that in there. And now it asks me, do you have any instructions for how your Copilot should assist? For example, a specific tone. What's really cool is that you can also click at the bottom. Because sometimes you don't know what to enter, right? So you want maybe have a couple of examples. You can use that to make sure that you get a couple of examples. But in this case, I already had it. So let's add the text here. If it works, yes. Please answer the questions concisely and in a friendly way. So when I add that, you can see at the right side that it will add the instructions at the right side as well. So I can kind of see the summary of what I'm saying in the main window. I can see the summary on the right. So now it's asking, where should the Copilot find important information? provide any publicly accessible websites that your Copilot will need. So in this case, I want to use the Resco website. So I'm going to use resco.net. And when I add that, it will add that to the Copilot, and it will get all the knowledge from that website. So this will enable me to ask questions about Resco, and then it will give me an answer for those questions. So that's really cool. And lastly, are there any topics or tasks the Copilot shouldn't help with or talk about? So that kind of gives me the option to block everything that I don't want to talk about. So I don't want, for instance, to let the Copilot talk about topics that are not related to the website. So let me send that as well. And again, it will show it at the right side that it's going to exclude that kind of information. And now I can say I'm done, and then it will show me the Copilot. So at the right side, you can now see the test panel where I can already start asking questions about the Resco website. So, whoops, there we go. So let me ask a question here, and let's ask, what is Resco? And let's hope the demo gods are with me today. So it will answer me with a statement from the website. And what's really cool about this is that it will also enter a reference. So at the bottom, you will see the link to the website where it found that information. So it will always give me the reference of where I can find that on the website. So whenever I click on that, it will open the Resco website, and it will show me the About Us page where I can find a whole lot of information, and it used that to generate that answer. So let's go to the next one, and here I will ask another question. Can you name some of the Resco products? So let's send that one, and it will hopefully come back with a bunch of options, and here it is. It shows the power solutions, power components, and a bunch of other products that are there. And whenever I click on the link again, it just goes to the website, and it got the details from there. So that's how easy you can kind of create a Copilot. When I really want to create this, I can hit create, and it will set up my Copilot and make it available inside of Copilot Studio. And that usually takes a couple of seconds before it's there. When I'm done, I can also, like I said earlier in the life cycle, I can add a channel to the Copilot. So if I want to, for instance, make it available within Teams, I can do that. And I already created the Copilot before as a backup, and you can see that right here. And this is how a Copilot could look inside of Teams. So I asked a bunch of questions already, like I did before, and you can see that it answers the same questions. So that's relatively easy to do. So another really cool feature in Copilot Studio is generative actions, because what you can do with generative actions is you can connect your Copilot to all kinds of data sources. So you can, for instance, connect to Dataverse, you can connect to Salesforce, all those different data sources you can use. And you can make your Copilot a bit smarter. So you can kind of add your own data to the Copilot. And how do we do that? We do that with actions and plugins. And there are a whole lot of connectors already. And as I said, you can also, if you have an API that is not in those, I think it's 1,300 connectors, you can also build your own connector to make that available as well inside of Copilot Studio. And what's really cool about actions and plugins is that whenever you use that, it creates some kind of wrapper around the connector action. For instance, if I want to send an email, I can add that to Copilot Studio, and it will create a wrapper around it so that Copilot Studio will always figure out what are the inputs that I need for that action. So for an email, it would be, where do you want to send the email to? What would be the subject? What would be the body? And whenever I add a message into the Copilot and I say, I want to send an email to this person with this subject and this body, it will extract all the inputs from that text and it will automatically call the connector action. And then at the end, it will also return the outputs to me. So that's something that is the stuff that they do with AI. And what's really cool about those connectors is that you can also extend them to make them available inside of the other Copilots that we talked about. So this is also a way to extend the first-party Copilots, like Copilot for Microsoft 365. If you already have a connector, you can easily enable the AI actions in a connector, and then you will be able to chat with your Power Platform connectors inside of Copilot for Microsoft 365 as well. So let's quickly go to another demo, and I'll show you how you can add one of those connector actions inside of Copilot Studio. So here we are. Refreshing the page because I just created the Copilot. There we are. And when you open up your Copilot, let me move this away a little bit. So there we go. So when you open your Copilot, you have a bunch of options in here. You have the way to test your Copilot like I just showed. But at the top, you also have a bunch of navigation items. So what you can do here is you always land in the overview. Then we have knowledge, topics, actions, analytics, and channels. And I want to create an action because this will enable me to call one of those data sources. And there is one really cool feature that I want to show you as well, because when you go to settings, let me see, here we have Generative AI. And, Oh, I need to publish it first. That's a good one. But when you publish your Copilot, you will be able to enter the AI settings, generative AI settings. And when you switch from classic to the new version of the generative AI features, it will automatically based on your input, it will automatically trigger one of those actions. If you don't do that, you always have to create a topic on top of your action to make it available and to be able to trigger that really easily. So when I go to settings now, I hope oops. Nice, those side panels. So we go to settings, we go to generative AI, and it should work now. So when I switch from classic to generative, and I would save this, it would help me to trigger the action whenever I create that. And let me save that for a minute. There we go. And close it. I'm going to the actions. And in this case, I'm going to create a really simple action. I'm going to use the current weather. And I hope it will find it. Oopsie. Get current weather from MSM Weather. And when I click on that, it will enable me to configure that action. And what it's doing right now, it's creating an action. It also creates a connection in the backend, which we need to call that connector. And I have a bunch of options here. This is something that's really new. And that's the end user authentication. What I can do here is I can set it to user authentication, or I can set it to Copilot author authentication. And this enables me to if I want, for instance, a Dataverse action and I want to only create records or list the records that a user has access to, I need to use the end user authentication. And if I want to have like a service account kind of experience, I can use the Copilot Author authentication, which I'm going to use right now. I can configure this whole action. In this case, this is all good, so I'm going to hit next. Here we can see those inputs and outputs that the connector action has, and this is something which the AI model behind it will kind of get the location and the units, for instance, from a message that a user submits, and then the outputs are what comes back from that connector. And it will use those outputs to generate a message. So when I would ask for the current weather in Vienna, it should give me back the weather that is happening right now. So that's what you can do here. I hit next here. And in this case, I'm going to cheat a little because I already have a snippet available. And this is something I also wanted to show you because those actions, when you create them, you have kind of a source code behind it. And we have a library of snippets which are reusable and which you can kind of use to make your actions look a little bit more nice. Because if I scroll down here, you can see that there's a weather snippet with an adaptive card which has an icon in there for the weather. If it's sunny or rainy, it will show a different icon. And that's something that we can use in this example. I already created one earlier. And let me zoom in a bit. There we go. So what I have here is in the outputs, I have added a you create an adaptive card option. And what it has a whole adaptive card in there. And that adaptive card will show the icon with the temperature and those kinds of things. And in this experience, I can kind of edit the whole adaptive card, and I can use PowerFX code to make it easy to, for instance, format certain numbers, etc. That kind of stuff is possible in here. But in this case, I use the adaptive card, and that will showcase the whole thing here. So let's try to trigger this one and get the current weather in Vienna. And there we go. There we go. We have a nice sunny weather, 24 degrees Celsius, finally, because Fahrenheit is something that I can't handle that, but Celsius is working. So yeah, this is how you can kind of make sure that you connect with all kinds of data sources, and that's something that is really cool. And this is kind of a silly sample with weather, but you can also, of course, connect to all kinds of dataverse environments, etc. So if we talk about extensibility, we have a bunch of extensibility options within Copilot Studio. So we can use rich responses. So one of those was the adaptive card that I just showed. Like a simple adaptive card was that, but you can make an adaptive card relatively easy, and it will show a lot better results, because if you only have text, it kind of looks boring. So if you can do adaptive cards, etc., that's really nice. One thing I also really like is quick replies. Because quick replies enable you to suggest some options to the end user. So whenever they are chatting with the Copilot, they might not know what to do next, and that's why the quick replies are really a good one. Some other thing that we have a code side-by-side, which will make it possible for you to switch to code, edit, view, etc. And there's a lot of productivity options as well. That's something that I really like as well. So you can copy and paste all kinds of actions also through the code editor. So if you want to copy and paste a whole bunch of actions at the same time, you can switch to the code editor, copy the whole code, and paste it in the UI again. So that works as well. You can also extend with a lot of Azure services. So you, for instance, can extend with ChatGPT on your data. So that's something that you can do as well. There are a bunch of possibilities as well for document search and that kind of tools in there as well. Another one that's really cool is that we don't do only integrations with Azure, we also do it within the Power Platform. So if you have a Power Pages website, you can easily add a Copilot to your page and then let them chat with that Copilot. Another one is the Power Apps integration, where you can easily add a Copilot as well to your Power Apps that you create, and then you can easily chat with that Copilot inside of Power Apps as well. It's just a simple component, so when you add it, you only have to configure it a little bit, and then it works already. Another thing is, of course, the extending of existing Copilots. So if you want Copilot for sales or Copilot for Microsoft 365, you can extend that as well. And this is a slide where you can see all kinds of plugin options. And these plugin options are built by the Power Platform team. So if you want to create a prompt plugin where you can kind of create reusable prompts with inputs, you can let people reuse those prompts as well and share them within your company, basically. That is possible as well. We have conversational plugins, which are more like a topic inside of Copilot Studio, and you can call all kinds of backend services from that. We have the connector plugins. That's the one where you extend those connectors, those 1,300 plus connectors, and you can enable them as an AI action inside of Copilot for Microsoft 365 as well. And last but not least, we have Power Automate plugins, which is basically a Power Automate flow that you can trigger from Copilot for Microsoft 365. And with that, I have a bunch of links here. aka.ms/try Copilot Studio will get you to Copilot Studio. There are a couple of links at the bottom, which are pretty cool. The implementation guide is a really cool resource, which is a PDF with a PowerPoint with a lot of information on how to implement Copilot Studio within large organizations, which is really cool. And we have the Power Platform snippets and the Power Platform prompts, which April started, where we have a whole bunch of prompts that you can reuse as well, and you don't have to create them all by yourself. And with that, I would like to thank you.